We are now in our module 5, color adjustment for ICT visual graphics design course. So I'm going to tackle a series of slides for the discussion, and then later on, I will be answering your questions at the chat box. For the introduction, images that come straight from a digital camera aren't always perfect. As you start to gain more experience with Photoshop, you may notice some recurring problems with images that you'll want to fix. For example, some images might be too bright, while others may be too dull. There are various corrections that can make your images look dramatically better. Some of the corrections we'll cover in this lesson include levels and curves. So if you want to modify the tonal range of your image, for example, by making shadows or highlights brighter or darker, you can adjust the levels or curves. For the saturation, if the colors in an image are muted or dull, you can increase the saturation. You can also reduce the saturation to make colors more subdued. For the auto adjustment tools, if you're not exactly sure what type of corrections to make, Photoshop comes with several automatic adjustment tools that can improve your images. So like for example, this one, these are high definition pictures wherein the emphasis of the graphics is in the subject. As you can see, it is not a pixelated image. It has a high definition type of quality. And also this one. As you can see and observe, if the subject are within the range, the background is somewhat blurred. But as you can see here, for the subject, which is the bird, the background seems to be blurred in a form of sky. So using adjustment layers are a type of non-destructive editing because they don't actually change anything about the original image. And because you can continue to tweak adjustment layers as you work, it's easy to try out different effects and get the image to look exactly the way you want. For the levels, every image is a mix of shadows, highlights, and midtones. Shadows are the darkest part of the image. Highlights are the brightest parts. And midtones are everything in between. So when you adjust levels, you're adjusting these different tones. And while you could use the brightness and contrast tools for a similar type of adjustment, they're much less powerful than levels. There are many reasons to use the levels of adjustment. For instance, if you have a particular dark or underexposed image, you might want to make the midtones and highlights brighter while keeping the shadows relatively dark. You can see an example of this in the image below. Like for this one, for the original levels, as you can see in the original image, it is somewhat darker. But after adjusting, it is somewhat brighter. So if you've never adjusted levels before, these tools may feel a little unintuitive at first. At this stage, the most important thing is to practice making different adjustments, such as you start to gain more experience, you'll be able to make it or to use it more effectively. And remember, if an adjustment doesn't look right, you can always undo your changes and start over. So to adjust levels in the Photoshop, in the layer panel, just add a layer levels of adjustment layer as well. So locate the graph in the middle of the properties panel. This is called the histogram, and it shows information about the shadows, highlights, and midtones of the image. In this example, you can see that there's a big gap on the right side with no information, which means the image is underexposed. We can use a levels of adjustments to fix this. So notice the input levels slider here, just below the histogram. These are the controls we'll use to adjust the levels. Do not use the output levels sliders near the bottom of the panel. Because our image is too dark or underexposed because of the camera setting, we'll click and drag the white slider to the left. Notice how we're dragging the slider to the rightmost edge of the histogram. Be careful not to drag the slider past this point, or you'll begin to lose detail in your image. This is commonly referred to as clipping. It is also optional to use and try turning the adjustment layer off and on to compare the new levels adjustments with the original image. This will allow you to see exactly what the adjustment layer is doing. Then you can make any additional adjustments to the levels. Okay, so there you have it. I hope that you learned something today with regards to adjusting the color adjustment of images, because as you can see, it is important that your image is visibly and clear enough for the users to see it, to appreciate the beauty of a picture. It's because some settings of the camera are adjusted in terms of its lighting. Therefore, images were shot in a darker, some sort of darker level. And because you're a graphic designer for that matter, this we have to make some adjustment with the use of Photoshop in order for your image to bring out its beautiful and bright, vibrant quality. So as a graphics design, it is your aim that not just you will get a circle in a picture you got from your camera. It is also important that you make some adjustment, but of course, not to the extent wherein your image will be distorted into its original value. It is important that you acquire skills like this one, adjusting colors with the use of Photoshop in order for you to enhance the quality of your image. Okay? So I hope you have learned something for today.